Well, it's another week and it's Saturday, so you know what that means. It's time to take a look at the Pocket Change market report for the week of April 25th, 2020. Well, what kind of stuff, what kind of coins, errors, varieties are people finding in their change that they're going and taking full advantage of this all of a sudden just overactive, really nice market that we got going on today? Well, we're going to go and find out. All right, so as always, if this is your first time here, welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the way out. That'll help me quite a bit in my search for 1 million subscribers and another plaque. But in any event, that's probably the most minor part of this. I want to thank everyone for joining. You guys are amazing, and with this Pocket Change video, okay, we're going to look at all of these sold eBay listings. As a matter of fact, I got 28 magical coins to talk about. A lot of new stuff. Stuff that I haven't talked about on the market report ever since its inception. So it's worth mentioning that there are a few coins that all of a sudden they're popping up on the radar screen and they are being soaked up in the secondary market by error collectors. It is amazing. All right, so make sure you jot down some notes on some of these coins you're going to want to look for. It's important because they're worth money today. And last time I checked, with everything going on in this world right now, I can guarantee there's probably a few of us that could certainly use the extra $40, $100, $200. Well, I have a whole battery of coins that certainly fit within that kind of realm of error coins found in change. So, what do you say, guys? Should we go ahead and dip right into the first listing here? And of course, we're going to go to Old Familiar. This is a 1998 Lincoln Memorial cent, all right? So, what's so special about this date? Well, there are errors, but there is also one notable variety that can be found on this coin. As you can tell, it's not a coin without its issues. It's been circulated, it's got stain spots, and it's got a big old gash here. Just really keep in mind the grade of this coin, okay? And what it is, it's a wide AM. All right, you can see at the base of the A and M, you have a pretty considerable gap, whereas on normal reverses, those two letters will be touching, if not almost touching. So this particular coin sold for $5.99. And by the way, all the coins on the list, all 28, were from the last 24 hours, okay? I could probably do a week's long compilation of this, but do you guys really want to be listening to Blue Ridge for about 2 hours? Because that's how long it'll take to do a full week of Pocket Change content. So, first one on the block, 1998 FS 901 Wide AM, always a favorite. Glad to see it's still commanding $5 to $10, especially in this condition. It's not the best example, but it's an example if you don't have one. All right, so the next one that we have here, this is a coin, an error that I've touted for the longest time as being something to kind of keep an eye out on. As minor as it looks, these coins actually have a pretty good value. Plus, they're in a attributed coin on a website called Cuds on Coins. So it's a 1957 Lincoln Wheat cent, and I also have a extreme close-up of Liberty, and you'll see a pretty nice sizable die chip between the B and E. This is affectionately referred to as a BIE cent or buy cent. These are collected by die states, and they're very popular actually. This example that you see here, which, by the way, we're talking about a VF coin. It's nothing high-end or anything. This one also sold for $5.99. So make sure you check out that website, bookmark it, because you're going to find a lot of coins with weird, funny die breaks and cuds and all sorts of die cracks that are worthwhile looking for, okay? If you could score a coin in your change or bankroll hunting, it's going to be like $5, $10, $20 a pop. So don't overlook these. All right, so the next one that we have here is the 2005 Philadelphia Kansas State Quarter. I've talked about this one before. It's a coin that probably has got more due than it needs. but these are referred to as In God We Rust quarters. Okay, the T is obviously almost completely missing in trust, and that's all attributed to a clogged die. All right, which it is an error. All right, don't get me wrong, but this one right here again comes up very frequently on the eBay circuit of sales, and this one's sold as buy it now option of $12.49. All right, yes, they are worth that much for now. All right, so the next one that we have here is a 1972 Philadelphia Lincoln Memorial set. Just by reading, some of the details on the 2x2 flip that this seller put it in, it shows a lot of information. Okay, so it's double die offers number 8, also referred to as FS 108 for you cherry pickers guide folks, and it's an early die state example. This particular one is really nice, high grade, mid state, probably a 64 or 65 in my book. But if you wanted an example of die number 8 of this double die, this one sold as a best offer for $109.95, which seems like it's quite a bit high because I've seen these in mid-state sell for about 50 to 60 bucks. So, maybe the market is enhancing on these particular coins in full mid-state red. Okay, we'll see. And also took the liberty of pulling up a couple of the close-ups from the original auction of the 72 double die 8. The date exhibits quite a bit of doubling. Okay, you can see the notching and the splits. This 9 is all oblong in just the right places. You can see the split here in the 7, along with the little notching. And the 2, you have a notch here, and you can see the defined split line right here in the curl, and then this bottom bar right here at this base here of the 2. So, got that one. Of course, you got plenty of doubling on Liberty, as you can see. And then finally, the motto exhibits probably the strongest amount of doubling on this coin. In God We Trust will be one of your main focal points for the double die number 8. All right, the next coin that we have here is another favorite. This is a 1970 San Francisco Lincoln Memorial set. Only this one right here exhibits a really nice repunched mint mark where you have the S north of the primary mint mark here. So you can see the double top curl of the S here, and you can see another curl here of the inner S, or the repunched S right here. But this one looks like it was found in a mint set. However, these can be found just searching your change. Okay, so if you're not looking for, say, the small date 1970s, also keep in mind that there is a pretty significant repunched mint mark. So this one sold for $13. All right, so what in the world do we have a $500 box of just rolled up quarters here? Okay, this is a sealed Brinks box. And believe it or not, full boxes of coins from the bank have had quite the secondary market activity here in the last 5 to 10 days. Call it providing a service to people that don't have the ability to get boxed coins. But in this case, you're paying a huge premium. So we have a $500 box here, and this particular seller has sold a few of these here. Actually, as a matter of fact, the last 24 hours, there's been 2 or 3 from the same seller. But this one here sold for $795.25 shipped. So let's take a moment to explore this. Okay, this is an obvious kind of like hot trending secondary market type of item here. Very easily accessible, once you get your hands on them. Obviously this day and age, it's always easier to get on the phone and order your boxes of quarters and then go turn around and sell it. So it sold for almost $800. Okay, it's going to be a foregone conclusion that at least $20 of that will go to shipping, and that leaves you about 270 bucks. And then after fees, you would have profited about $210, $215 on this one box of quarters. Something to think about. Yes, I am touching my temple as we speak. This is kind of interesting. So let's see how far this trend continues of bank boxes selling on the secondary market. Alright, so it doesn't matter how ugly a coin looks. This coin here exhibits a lot of green goobly gop, which at first glance to a regular person would be downright gross. Okay, so you have a lot of verdigris, a lot of corrosion. This thing was probably environmentally challenged, which means it was probably dug out of the ground. But you take a look at that big old lamination on the obverse of the coin that goes right to the edge and into Lincoln's face. This is incredible. Now, this coin right here, in spite of all of its issues, did sell for $14.95. Alright, so someone needed this one bad enough, they just did not care about all this stuff on there. Alright, so off-center coins are always a great hit in the error community. This is a 1985 Lincoln Memorial cent, Philadelphia fashion. This one is about 40% off-center, but the real key here is you have a nice full date present on the off-center portion of the strike, which is always an important factor when collecting these. And this one sold for $12.50. Okay, so as a seller, it doesn't seem like quite a lot, but as a buyer, okay, this is kind of like a really nice buy, especially if you're trying to assemble a few oddball errors for your collection. It's always nice to have something like this to talk about. Alright, so we have a 2001 Lincoln Memorial cent. This one is very, very deceptive in that it doesn't look like anything spectacular, but this one right here is a nice centered broad strike. So you notice on the strike right here, it's nice and centered, but you have all of this extra real estate going around the coin. See the amount of room between the motto and the rim? So it's been stretched out as a result of the absence of a collar on the printing, presses, on the actual mint presses. And because of that, it kind of just squeezes out extra metal, and that's what a broad strike is. And you could also see the same things going on the reverse right here. It's a very nice striking coin. It is slightly bigger than a normal Lincoln cent. And I know the broad strikes on these can get a lot crazier. This one is more restrained. Still, it did sell for $15.99. So keep an eye out for stuff like this. Okay, so the next one that we have here is not your typical, but it's worth mentioning, especially if you enjoy kind of like cherry picking some of these coins. This is a 1921S Buffalo nickel. I will say, before we get to like the major thing to look for on these older Buffalo nickels, keeping in mind that this one is a relatively low grade. It's probably a good 6, if I had to venture a guess. You have kind of like what looks like a scratch here that goes across the Buffalo, but you also see some pretty nice clashing under the chin, which is actually really common. They're really common on a Buffalo nickel. So, you know, those are pretty neat when you have the entire E pluribus unum clashed on the underside of Indian's chin. But the most important part is that this is a 2 feather. Okay, so it's missing the other feather right here. It's been abraded away, which is common on a few of the dates, but this is a 21S. It's a little bit tougher to find. This example, even though it's a nice kind of like low, good grade type coin, did sell for $42.50. The date in itself is a little bit tougher, but at this grade, they are generally widely available for about $5 to $10, usually as an album filler style of coin because of the date and mint mark. Alright, so this is the featured coin I want to talk about. Okay, it's interesting because a couple of these listings have come up here in the last 24 hours, and we need to talk about it. Okay, this is a 1970 Denver Washington quarter. I mean, you know, grade-wise, it's pretty beat up, pretty well worn. I'm not gonna say beat up. You know, it's not. The coin isn't bent, and it doesn't have big nasty gouges and scratches and nicks on there. But you can see the Denver mint mark on this coin. And what we have here is a 1970 D Washington quarter that was struck on dime stock. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Dime stock. Stock that is intended to strike Roosevelt dimes. So what do we mean by that? Because obviously the coin is the size of a quarter, all right? So it's not small or as small as a Roosevelt dime. I'm going to elaborate here in a moment. But a few things to keep in mind when you look at this coin is the weakness on the reverse that you see here. It didn't quite strike all the details and lettering, and on the obverse you got the same thing. It doesn't have a full rim on this side, plus you have a lot of weakness here in Liberty. So the reason why that is because the coin is as thin as a dime. So, you know, when the pressure has been set to strike these quarters, they are set in relation to actual thickness of a regular standard quarter planchet. All right, but as you can see, these quarter planchets that are a lot thinner were actually punched out of sheets of copper nickel clad that were intended for Roosevelt dimes and not quarters. So that's why it's quite a bit thinner and the strike is weak, because the pressure doesn't go all the way because of that the difference in thickness. But this one sold for $53.20. This one was actually sold by a pretty established eBay seller of coins, Telstar Coin. All right, so he sells a lot of interesting stuff. I wanted to go and provide a huge shout out to Telstar for all the great material. There's a lot of great stuff, you know, oddball stuff that you don't see. This is one of them. So $53, that's quite a bit of money. That's maybe for a lot of you 2 tanks of gas. It's that big of a difference. And yes, people do miss looking for these. It's just, in the grand scheme of things, I guess not as important as, say, finding errors that you could identify by looking at the coin on the obverse or the reverse, or finding silver. So that's a shame. It's a lot of money for a coin that is generally overlooked. All right, so how about a dollar bill? This is a 1977 A series Federal Reserve note. As you can tell, the third print is quite a bit misaligned. All right, and when it's this badly misaligned to where, you know, like the serial numbers and the seals and all that overlap some of the other traditional design devices like the date and the signatures, you have something absolutely extraordinary. All right, so this note right here, raw, as you can tell, it's even, you know, circulated quite a bit. It's got little folds and waves and folds and even more folds and waves. This one sold for $86.88. Kind of crazy, huh? And if you look at the back, it looks normal. You know, it looks like a dollar bill that has seen a lot of use in its lifetime, and now it's retired and in a collection. All right. How about a 1982 D large date Lincoln Memorial set? This is a bronze alloy type, and it's also got 3 different rim clips. All right, obviously, we have this huge one right here, this big old bite. And then we have another small one here above the word God. And then finally, at the base of Lincoln's bust, we also have another small one. All right, so it's not easy to find these with 3 clips, identifiable clips. But this one right here is in such great shape that it was definitely bound to make its way on eBay one day. But this one sold for $14.99. Okay, not too bad of a find. All right, so the pictures aren't great here, but, you know, there's just enough meat on the bone to kind of discern what's going on. It's a 1988 Philadelphia Kennedy half dollar. This one has some pretty notable rotated dies. Now, to kind of help with the legitimacy of the listing and the photos, keep in mind the position of the 3 staples. Okay, so this is the obverse right here. You got this top staple here. Generally, when you flip these around on a north-south axis, so up and down, okay, this image of the heraldic eagle is supposed to be right side up. All right, they call that coin alignment. But when this one was flipped over, the design was almost 180 degrees flipped. All right, as a matter of fact, the seller had mentioned that it was 140 degrees flipped for the second set of dies, or the anvil die, which holds the reverse die. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you. But you know, with this major rotated die action right here, it did sell for $46. So again, to you roll hunters that want to just continuously look for the silver, this coin right here pays for about 90% silver half dollars. Keep that in mind as you're going through your half dollar rolls. Alright, so this is a really fun find. I mean, you know, we love the wide AM coins of 1998 to 2000, but there is always one in there that's kind of a little bit tougher to find over the rest, and that's the 1999 dated Lincoln Memorial wide AM. Alright, so the pictures were not great, especially the close-up, but there is a distinctive gap in there. Alright, and that's really all you need to effectively know for sure that this one is the real deal. But this one right here is sold for $134.20. A nice kind of like low mint state 61, 62 red brown. It's got a little oxidation on there, but yeah, this thing is still selling for over $100, as it is the toughest of the three wide AMs to find. Now, this coin here was part of a 2-coin lot. Okay, so this is what I feel like is the major coin out of the two. It's a 1991 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime with an obvious die break on the reverse right there at the top of Ted in United. These are also called by its more common name as cuds. So die breaks that involve the edge or rim at one point is a cud. If it's inside where the designs are and it doesn't touch an edge, those are simply just die chips. All right. Or interior die breaks. But this one right here, alongside another coin that the seller had mentioned was a dime planchet flaw, which it looks like damage, you know, based off of the images that were on there. Both of them together combined sold for $20.79. Cuds, I think this one did sell as more so because of the cud than the other coin. But keep in mind, these are very valuable, all right? Make sure you don't toss these back, and they're not damaged, obviously. All right, so we got another profiled 50-cent piece. This is a 1982 Philadelphia candy half dollar in which it exhibits our favorite no FG initials, which is usually right here. All right, so this one was polished away and is gone. Or, yeah, pretty crazy that these are still being overlooked. But in any event, this example here, which seems to be like a nice about uncirculated type example, did sell for $16.20, which is equivalent to, in today's silver prices, to 4 90% half dollars. All right, so you see the trend. Don't overlook these guys. All right, we have another die break cut here. It's a 1983 Philadelphia. You can see it right here on the obverse, covering part of Liberty and then going into Jefferson's head. Pretty nice. And then you can see the corresponding weakness on the reverse. All right, so when you have the piece of die that fell off to produce this mass, you know, you also have a weakness in the strike, and that's why it's weak here as well. So this one sold for $48. It looks like a run-of-the-mill pocket change find with the nicks and scratches and gouges and you know, just some of the luster breaks to indicate circulation wear. This is a really nice coin, you know, and again, die break cuts are all the rage right now. All right, so for those of you that like finding coins that look eye-appealing, okay, keep in mind, we have a 1956D Lincoln Wheat cent, which is a very common date of Lincoln Wheat. But this one right here, generally, you know, you give it 2 looks, it's like, oh, we're going to toss that puppy back into the, you know, the junk pile of other pennies. Without taking a close look at the coin, it's a D over D, Cherry Picker's Guide variety, repunched mint mark of 56 D over D. I can't stress this enough. Make sure you keep an eye out for these. They pop up when you least expect it, and then with all the dirt and grime and environmental damage and carbon spots, they tend to get lost in the mix. All right, so in spite of all this, you know, issues on this coin, it did sell for $6.89. All right, so keep that in mind. Oh boy, we got another bank box, this time pennies. $25 box of what appears to be NF String and Sun rolls. And what did this one sell for? $64.90 shipped. Okay, it was actually $49.95 plus the shipping fees is what the buy it now was on this particular box. So this was going to be sold and then shipped in a flat rate medium box. The total profit on this particular box is going to be about 20 bucks. Oh, and by the way, the seller wants you to know that he or she has a number of them available. So if you're looking for a box of pennies to search through and you just don't have the ability to go to the bank to pick these up yourself, then go ahead and order one. You know, see what kind of treasures you can find in them. All right, so we're going a little bit new school here, and we got 2018 Philadelphia Voyagers Quarter. All right, this is a relatively recent design. It's only 2 years old, guys. You know, the design was pretty nice. It's not bad. It's got that loon on the back. Love it. But this coin right here, you know, it's seen a little circulation. You got some nicks. You got some circulation wear on Washington. But the reason why that this one is even considered on this list is because it is a partially tilted collar with a railroad rim is what it's also called on the edge. All right, so you can see just the tilt of the collar fails to make a full strike, especially on the edge where you have these reeds here. So this is a pretty neat error. Okay, this one sold for $12.55. Not as rare as you guys think. I come across these quite often. And if I got 10 bucks for every one that I did find, that'd be a heck of a payday. I would have enough to pay a car payment. It's that crazy. All right, so the next one that we have here, this is another one that I want to talk about. I've never talked about this coin on any part of my channel, but it's a 2006 Lincoln Memorial Cent. Sean, what exactly is the hot piece to this coin? Well, it's a doubled die obverse and it's a doubled ear. So what I did was also added in the images directly from the seller's post, and this is a really neat coin. Okay, at first glance, this little thing right here appears to be a plating bubble, which can occur because it is a 2006. These are copper coated zinc coins. All right, so this is an obvious miss to some folks, but believe it or not, this is actually another earlobe piece right here. Okay, so this one right here is in the Cherry Picker's Guide. It's an FS 101. Incredibly valuable coin for what it is. It sold for $33. All right, that's what it looks like. It's a nice condition coin. All right, and according to the listing, that again, that looks like a plating bubble, but in reality, it really is a doubled ear Lincoln. All right, this seems to be like a normal looking $1 bill, right? It's a 2009, so it's a relatively recent issue. The serial numbers look correct. There's nothing funny going on, no major misalignment. As a matter of fact, it's circulated. It's probably an XF type note. It's got the centerfold plus some other creases in there. But the big hot point with this particular note is going to be the reverse. It was tremendously under inked, all right, massively, and this one sold for $106.70. Now, I won't mention because someone will probably say, "Oh, well, that's counterfeit. You can bleach that." Well, if that's the case, the other side will be affected as well because it's paper and it's porous, all right, and bleach will make things like the green of ink on here turn yellow. All right, some of you probably didn't know that, but bleach ruins notes on both sides. You can't effectively do this with just one side. There you go, pretty nice. Oh boy, we're talking about more Kennedy half dollars. How about a 71D that looks very, very circulated? Probably an XF40 if I had to guess a grade. But this is a coin that sold for $6.99. So what is up with this thing? Well, it is doubled die obverse FS101. You can see, well, these pictures are very dark and out of focus, but you can see just enough of the doubling and the splits and the notching on all of these devices in the motto, and you know you have it. All right, so even coins like this that are very circulated still manage to sell for between $5 and $10. Pretty nice. All right, so I talked about this coin the other day. I'm going to talk about it again because here's one that's sold for $20.50. This is a doubled die obverse. This is Wexler's doubled die number 11, or Konica doubled die number 1. I actually bought my first one of this coin earlier today just so I could have an example. But this one right here, you can see just the doubling of each one of the numbers here. You can see the stretch and the thickness. Look at the 0. Okay, this is supposed to be completely ovaled, and then you know you have, well, you have some splitting and notching and all that great stuff in there. Liberty is also greatly affected as well. All right, so this is another one that I would say that keep an eye out on. These sell between $20 and $30 today, and last time I checked, 2019 coins are still plentiful in mid-state grades, wherever you may be on the East Coast. This is definitely a coin to keep an eye out for. Wait, another one of these? A 1970D Washington quarter, that exhibits all of the same weakness as the one that we saw earlier. Is this another struck on dime stock error coin? And it sure is. Take a look at that. The top coin that you see here, even though it's out of focus, is quite a bit thinner than this one. All right, so we have another one. Apparently, that sold. I told you there was 2 that sold within the last 24 hours. This particular example, same date, same mint mark, sold for $44.20. Yeesh, guys. Keep an eye out for this. There are more out there. There have been 2 that sold here in the last day, and it's easy money for crying out loud. If you need it, go for it. We got a couple left. This is a long video. What do you guys think? But we have a 2001 $1 Federal Reserve note. The inking of the first print looks out of whack and misaligned, and it is. All the while, the third print with the district seals and the serial numbers and all that seem to be okay in terms of its placement on the actual paper part of it. So the first print is obviously misaligned. This one looks very worn. This is a nice fine example with a bunch of folds and creases. Sold for $30.74. This is along the kind of line of minor. You would probably spend this before you decide to keep it, only because of how worn it looks. But a lot of these misalignment areas, aren't overlapping like the example that we saw earlier, and that's why it sold for only $30. But it's $30, So make sure you save things like this, pull it aside. And what's also interesting that the seller didn't mention is that there was a partial obstruction here on the 2. See how short this bottom base of the 2 is here compared to this? So when it was printed, there probably was like a piece of paper or something that was right here before this thing was printed. So it's also another interesting fact. There's a close-up of the misalignment. And then finally, we're going to end it off on a 2019 Philadelphia Lowell National Park quarter. Okay, this is a recent release, the first coin in which to offer the West Point circulation rarity. But this is a Philadelphia. All right, so I've talked about this one before, and it's called the Earring Washington quarter. All right, and for a while, it's been reported that that's a die chip, but it's actually something different. And what it is it's a die tooling indentation. So this would be like the little nub or nipple that would be at the tip of the die as it's being hubbed correctly. And keep in mind, these are single squeeze press hubbings, okay, to create these dies. And actually the master die, as a raw piece, has this little nipple on the top. which is what you see here. It's just that the mint employee, after the design was made onto that set of dies, the person doing all the work did not file down or work this area to remove that anomaly, that earring, I guess. So it makes for a pretty cool modern error type coin, and this one sold for $33.55 as a bin, or a best offer. So the seller probably accepted like 20 to 25 bucks. More of these are being discovered, and they are still worth a little bit of money. All right, these used to command nearly $100 upon first discovery. So it's also interesting to know that these have come down because people are finding them. So guys, what do you guys think about this episode of the Pocket Change Market Report? A lot of diverse stuff. A lot of stuff, again, that if you were never looking for them before, you probably never thought about looking for them at all. Especially like the coins that were struck on dime stock. And also keep in mind, there are candy half dollars that are struck on quarter stock. Which, if you looked at them side by side, one is obviously a lot thinner than the other. So keep an eye out for those as well. So I want to thank you guys for watching. A nice long video for your Saturday afternoon. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of information to kind of bring back and utilize on your next treasure hunt. As always, like, share the video, subscribe to my channel. Okay, appreciate it. And yeah, don't forget to hit the bell for instant notifications. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. As always, Coinaholics, we are discovering together. Enjoy the hunt this upcoming week. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you on the next big video. You guys take care.